Thank you for joining us for the Latinx Alumni Network celebration and discussion today. Bienvenidos. My name is Raquel Ruiz, a member of the class of 1999 and assignment MBA class of 2020. I am a member of the university's alumni board and a volunteer of the Latinx Alumni Network. I think I speak on behalf of all of our volunteers here today when I say we are excited and grateful that we can share this program with you today. We're also grateful for the support from the Office of Alumni Relations, their affinity networks and equity, diversity, and inclusion team has expanded recently. And I am thrilled that Claudia de Leon is our staff liaison for the Latinx Alumni Network, and we will hear more from her later. We have a wide range of registrants joining us today, including alumni, students, parents, community members, faculty, and staff. We are excited you all could make it. Before I get started, I'd like to mention we will share a few Zoom tips in the chat, and also that we are recording the presentation part of the program, but the discussion in the breakout rooms will not be re-recorded. In recognition and celebration of Latinx Hispanic Heritage Month, we are pleased to welcome today's performer, Elvis Vasquez. Elvis is a junior in the class of 2023, double majoring in computer science and history with a minor in Latin American studies. He has interned with Google for the past 2 summers and is looking for ways to combine computer science and history in industry. By way of the Bronx, Elvis is a Dominican who is passionate about advocating for all the intersectionalities that exist within the Latinx communities, and does this through his involvement in the Spanish and Latino Students Association, or SALSA, as the vice president, and through his spoken word pieces that he writes as president of No Disclaimers, a spoken word performance poetry group at the University of Rochester. I will now turn it over to Elvis to share his spoken word piece. Welcome, Elvis.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Yes, I am a poet. I write on my free time. So I'm going to share a little something with you all. I call this piece Afrodescendente. Yo soy latino y alegre vengo de la montaña de mi cabaña, que alegre está. Y a mis amigos le traigo flores de las mejores de mi rosal. Yo soy negro, negro como el café del día, negro como la noche en Cenicienta, negro como las habichuelas en la olla de mi abuela, negro como los haitianos en la independencia, negro en esclavitud, negro en libertad, negro como la salsa, la que pica y salpica por el río Nilo, negro como la piel dura, que a los más que la latigaban nunca se dañaba. Soy negro tan como soy latino. Y la historia decía que comiendo nos casaban y nos ponían en un matrimonio que ni siquiera el demonio se casaba. Un matrimonio que terminó en infierno, en un fuego gritando, no le pega a la negra, la pobre negra que todavía la tienen hincada, y nos quedamos viudos de nuestras raíces. This hurricane came like a realization. The wells filled with so much intersection, they were overflowing. And just like a river cutting through the mountains of the Nile, I was liberated, able to see clear as day the darkness forgotten in the sunshine of Latinidad. But you see, my blackness was never forgotten, it was denied. How could I forget about the taste of a mangustito when my ancestors been tasting it even before 1492? How could I forget the word bachata when it's been uttered for generations in the motherland? How could I forget about the roots from which I grew, sprouting into a fruit that doesn't seem so strange anymore? I found solace in my skin, comfort in my degreñe and my pajon. I felt black. I felt me. I felt free. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Elvis, for sharing your gift, your talents with all of us today. You are super talented. Thank you. What a way to recognize and celebrate our rich heritage and to help us remember how proud we should be to be Latinx. And speaking of being proud, it is with great pleasure that I introduce our next presenter, Dr. Mercedes Ramirez Fernandez. Dr. Ramirez Fernandez serves as the Richard Feldman Vice President for Equity and Inclusion and Chief Diversity Officer at the University of Rochester. She was recruited in 2019 to open the university's inaugural Office of Equity and Inclusion and to serve as the institution's first Chief Diversity Officer. As a member of the President's executive team, Mercedes is an influential voice at senior leadership, cabinet, and executive committee meetings where she advocates for policy and decision-making decisions through a lens of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Most recently, Mercedes served as an Associate Vice Provost for Strategic Affairs and Diversity at Virginia Tech. In that capacity, she developed and supported innovative programs and policies relevant to diversity and inclusion across campus. She has more than 20 years of experience in higher education administration, in diversity, inclusion, and equity, student academic affairs, and program development. Mercedes earned a doctorate in higher education management from the University of Pennsylvania, an MA in counseling and human development from the University of Iowa, and a BA in psychology and a concentration in Spanish literature from the University of Puerto Rico. Mercedes will be sharing university-wide updates from the Office of Equity and Inclusion and will leave time after her presentation to answer your questions. Feel free to send questions via private chat to Claudia de Leon. Welcome, Doctora Mercedes Ramirez Fernandez.
Oh, mil gracias, Raquel. That is, beautifully. What a warm introduction. I appreciate you. Elvis, I had to have a minute here, to get myself together after your amazing poem. Oh my God. Blessings and sustained success, to you. Earlier today, my wonderful friend and colleague, Karen Chance Mercurius, told me that today, this conversation was going to be inspirational and was going to bring me life. And, I have learned that, whatever Karen says actually happens. So I just walked into the room and, as people were getting together and planning for the day, and I already felt like this is just such an awesome place. We are so lucky. We are so blessed. So bienvenidos a todos, welcome. It is such a great honor, for me to be here with all of you today in this inspiring event. And I want to add my thanks to the amazing team of the alumni and constituent relations, for the kind invitation to be with you today, and just want to acknowledge their remarkable work in creating space for meaningful connections and collective growth. This is what it's all about. It is such an honor, to be in partnership with you all. Again, mil gracias to our alumni volunteers, to our colleagues who are here, from across the University of Rochester, to our talented students, to the staff, and to everyone. It is a privilege to welcome you and, to share a few updates about, the work of the Office of Equity and Inclusion. And we start by, recognizing the first peoples of the land, by sharing this ancestral land acknowledgement that was developed by one of our amazing colleague and friend, Dr. Jessica Guzman Rea. I just appreciate you so much, Jessica, and for the work that you do. And for this acknowledgement, I would like, to take a few minutes, in silence, to read this acknowledgement and to take it into our hearts. Thank you. The next slide actually speaks a little bit about, why am I here at the University of Rochester? So I'll start by introducing myself in the spirit of my culture. And that is, I am Mercedes Ramirez Fernandez. I am la hija de Ana y Heriberto. I'm the daughter of Ana and Heriberto. I am the nieta de Mercedes y Francisca. I am the granddaughter, amazing women, Francisca and Mercedes. I carry an important name in my family. Mercedes is my grandmother's name, and she was a remarkable woman. And I knew since I was a little person that I carried, tremendous responsibility by having her name. And those of us, that are Latinas, probably know that you carry a great responsibility with your family name. Mercedes Ramirez Crestar was the matriarch, of our family on my father's side, and she was an entrepreneurial woman and a fierce woman, and nobody would mess with her. She's a little woman, but nobody would mess with her. I remember seeing grown men coming to just give their respects to Mama Mercedes, as we called her, with sincere humility and admiration. So that recognition of the power of women in being in leadership positions in their family was critically important to me, and I always had wanted to extend that with those that are around me. My grandmother taught me about la gran mujer. Tú tienes que ser la gran mujer, just being the great woman. What did that mean? Being la gran mujer meant that you have sound values that your family and your ancestors are bestowing upon you, and that you steer your family and you contribute to your community in alignment with those values. So those values are inquebrantables. They are never to be broken. They are, what keeps us, honest and on the path. So I come from a family of educators and healers in the broad sense of the words. And my attraction to the University of Rochester, I just saw this institution as a place where transformation is possible, where learners come together through multiple collaborations and connections. Their understanding is shifted, forever. The way that they leave the institution is not how they started here at the University of Rochester. It's a place where assumptions can be challenged in a climate of care and compassion. And this is actually one of those circles, when we're like just sharing our contributions, to the greater university. The slide 4, speaks about, the institutional who are we here at the Institutional Office of Equity and Inclusion. So we have been working tirelessly on building an institutional office, and where reimagining has been the key word of our work. We're learning from our histories, we're taking lessons, from those that came before us, and we're building a new infrastructure to support the necessary work to make sure that all who come here to this institution to learn, to live, to work, to heal, to discover, all of us can do so in an environment that is safe, that is accessible, and that values all aspects of our identidades, of our identities. This work sometimes, I've been saying this in the last, few meetings, is at best aspirational. And the priorities are in the next slide. These 5 institutional priorities were developed through a mixed method research, process, that where we looked at our statistics, and we also had a number of conversations and charlas and focus groups and interviews, and we arrived to these 5 institutional priorities. This work also requires tesón, or grit. We need to stand in perseverance and patience. And again, I thank my Mama Mercedes and all my ancestors, that that's one lesson that I learned early in life, never to give up. The slide 5 actually goes into the 5 institutional priorities with a little bit more of of detail, and these priorities have been informing the EDI, the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Action Plans in academic and administrative units. Our slide 7 shares some of our, this is a short period of time, and I just really want to make sure that we have time for conversation. So these are a few examples, of how we have reimagined some of the programs that were here at the University of Rochester. The what we call SIF, what is the Strategic Incentive Fund Program, is a redesign program to assist the recruitment of faculty, research, and senior administrators, again, in accordance to equity, diversity, and inclusion. This program is steered, and the proposals are vetted by a faculty committee, and the faculty members are from Warner School of Education, from ASNE, Art Sciences and Engineering, and the School of Medicine and Dentistry. And also, if we will have requests from areas outside of the faculty members affiliation, we will just then be consulting with either Simon or with the School of Nursing or the appropriate area of request. One of the areas that we have been very, very, very closely centered is on policy development. We have a lot of practices here at the University of Rochester, but not a lot of them are written into policies. And when that happens, oftentimes, issues of equity and parity and racial and social justice they just don't happen. So we have been working on redeveloping or reviewing and rewriting policies. Many of you have been on those meetings for the policy against discrimination and harassment. I have you right here in the middle of my screen, Jessica. So you've been part of those conversations, and then spreading the work that we have been doing, across various different communities of faculty and students at the undergrad level, at the grad level, at the professional level, medical students. And we're like almost at the point of being able to implement this new policy that will be in effect in January of 2022, when we were able to align the legal standard to everyone will be treated equally. So our students are treated as well as employees, meaning faculty and staff, which by law, we were not required to do so. So other institutions were asking, why are you doing that? Because if we say that we are a university that is equitable and that is inclusive, that aspires to be anti-racist and other systems of oppression, then our policies need to be aligned with our words. That's one of the ways that we're doing that. The culturally responsive management is an arm of the office and also of the civil rights compliance and Title IX unit at OEI, and we are doing this work through a cultural lens, making sure that everyone is respected on the basis of their identities. The last two examples are really important to me. I do this work in community. I've spoken about my community, a teeny little example about my community of origin. But SURGE, or the Community Engagement for Racial Justice, is a lively and active community that came together in highly relevant ways to discuss the needs of the greater Rochester area and to work with us at the university. We're all community members, right? We just happen to work full-time at the university, or at some point at some appointment for the University of Rochester, but we are first and foremost residents and community members of the greater Rochester area. So we have developed this framework of doing this work in ways of identify the critical needs, to share expertise, and that's both ways, in multiple ways, to harvest the wisdom of our communities, and also to think about human capital and all resources to address those issues. And we have some amazing work that happened last year. I'm really excited about, how this committee continues to evolve. And lastly, we have the Equity and Inclusion Council of Deans and Directors. These are people that are actually in the seat of equity and inclusion. And the purpose of this group, it will be to establish the priorities, for the work of equity and diversity and inclusion for the next academic year, and addressing some of the critical matters that we have right now. I'll give you an example of two things. One of them is about communications, and the other one is about, learning spaces, again, like restorative spaces, capacity building for all of us within the compliance, area, but also broadly, for everyone in the community. And the next slide, it's about celebrations. So I'm excited. We will have on January 19th, recognizing, the warriors of equity, diversity, and inclusion. This is also being reimagined to become the presidential, Stronger as One, diversity awards. And it will be on January 19th, and we'll be sharing more information with you all and, with the community. President Mangelsdorf is very, very excited. And then on April 7th, we will be welcoming our community and our comunidades into the inaugural Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Leadership Summit. So more information will be coming on that as well. Next slide. That's it. So thank you so much for your attention and, for everything that you do. And if there's any questions that you have for me right now, I'm happy to answer them if I can.
Thank you, Mercedes. Thank you for that wonderful opportunity to learn about the Office of Equity and Inclusion's strategic efforts, and also these wonderful events that are coming up. I think that's great. Thank you. I didn't see anyone ask a question. I know we have limited time with you today, as you have to go soon, but I did want to ask you, one thing is, for the Latinx Alumni Network, how can we as a network really help to push forward, the OEI strategic efforts, right? I think that's something that, as we're here learning about the Latinx Alumni Network, we'd like to know.
Yeah. So I see this, this first, like official, because I know there have been many, many other gatherings that perhaps were not, official, but this first official meeting as greatly important as you go into the conversations or the focus groups, learning from what you think is important, what we know are matters that we need to address as an institution. I think it was in 2019, there was this wonderful program that your office, put together for Juneteenth, and there was a report that came after that in great part continued to solidify the priorities for the institution. So this is how we continue to be in constant contact, and you can tell me, okay, well, no, this issue is more important for us, or this is something that is kind of like on fire, and how can we partner with you and other colleagues across the institution. So I look forward to hearing from all of you and learning from you.
Great, thank you, Mercedes. Since there aren't any questions, I will also follow up with everyone who's here today with your contact information if something does come up. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Raquel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez Fernandez. You gave us some really insightful information that helps us understand the work your office is working on to support the students and the university community. There's a lot of work that office is working on, and we should acknowledge that work. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the future events as well. Gracias. And thank you for being with us today. We appreciate your time, and we know that you're super busy. And it's wonderful to see a Latinx representation at the university senior leadership level. It's exciting to be. I've been part of the university for 20 plus years, and it's just wonderful to see that change at the university level. So look forward to working with you. Now we want to turn the program to you all, participants. We want to hear your ideas in terms of future programming and events that you are interested in that our network can support. And so in just a moment, everyone will be released into breakout rooms to have discussions in a smaller group level. Each group will have a facilitator to guide you through the discussion. This is the first opportunity we have to discuss what we want to have for the future of our Latinx Alumni Network. And so be sure to be open, be honest, and be real in your conversation. We want to hear your ideas. This is going to help our volunteers and work with the Office of Alumni Relations in our future planning. I wanted to take a minute to introduce our facilitators for the groups. Jason Buitrago, class of 2007, and Warner, class of 2014. He will be the facilitator for our group 1. Dr. Jessica Guzman Rea, current U of R staff member and Warner class of 2010, will facilitate group 2. Lorenzo Mendez, class of 2012, will facilitate group 3. Yvette Reynolds, fellow Simon alum, class of 2012, will facilitate our group 4. And along with all of these volunteers, we also have Catalina Berry and our Board of Trustees member, Lisette Perez Deisbach, who are volunteers leading the Latinx Alumni Network. So if you're interested, please let us know. There will be an opportunity to make your interest known after the event. You will now be released into your rooms. We will provide about a 5-minute warning to wrap up your discussions, and then we will come back and reflect on your topics. So enjoy the conversations and see you soon. Okay, I think everyone has returned. Let's start with the group report backs. We want to hear what was discussed in each of your groups. Jason, could you report back?
Yeah, I'm actually going to defer to Penelope here, who's going to share back some of the most salient points of our conversation.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Penelope. I'm an alum from the undergraduate class of 2019. And so basically our group mainly touched upon the lack of mentorship that we all experienced from a class of 99 all the way to May of 2019. So clearly that issue is still very present. So what we could work on as an alumni network is to provide that mentorship capability, earlier on in an undergraduate career, let's say sophomore, when people are still trying to figure out their careers. And one example can be through a shadowing type of program or event at which you can actually showcase what people do on a day-to-day basis, because I feel like as an undergrad, some people glamorize their jobs. And then when you get into the nitty-gritty, people are like, oh, actually, I don't want to do that. So the earlier that you can expose an undergraduate to that, the earlier that they have time to make a change in their decision for undergrad or their master's program or MBA program, for example. So to provide time and that connection, I think will be really valuable. And even afterwards, for someone like me who's already obtained their master's, I'm still 24, I'm still trying to figure out my career in biotech. So developing relationships with people older than me so I can take the right steps for what I need and what I need to get out of my career and be, successful, because that's what we all want for each other as a community.
Thank you. Jessica?
Yes, thank you, Penelope. Definitely, that was really important. That was something that came up in our group about mentorship, that a couple folks actually are current mentors to current students, and that I believe it's being organized through the Career Center, the Green Center, and it's working, they said. And so maybe making folks aware of that opportunity through the Meliora Collective. It's there and available. And the last thing that really kind of resonated with me from our conversation was the need to have faculty, administrators, and just kind of folks on campus that represent all the different aspects of identity of the Latinx community. That's just really important to have representation. Also having this support network to address real issues that folks can engage in dialogue and conversation outside of their work environment or their families, talk about colorism, white passing, Latinx privilege, having space and resources to help address these issues seem to be really important. There was conversations about like, where do we find the people? We need to find the alums. So if there's, some magical lists that Claudia has access to, but finding the folks first, and then perhaps maybe having a group within LinkedIn to invite them, or the subgroup within Meliora Collective to really engage folks, and then inviting them to these type of networking events, really just to kind of build that network and make it really strong. We had a student who just wanted access to this network to talk about the current climate and things that are coming up, to just talk to folks that had been there before, and just to ask for assistance and how to navigate that, and what resources are available. And I think definitely what came across was that being Latinx is an asset, and it's really a strength. And so there's a lot of pride within our group. And so I just wanted to note that. And I took some notes, copious notes of our conversation.
Thank you, Jessica. Lorenzo?
First off, I want to thank our group. I think we had a really great and open and honest conversation about a few ideas. I'm going to flip it over to Deontay to give an overview.
Yes, thank you so much. Sorry in advance for the lack of camera. It makes my computer act weird. So we're going to avoid that. So my group had a very engaging discussion, and we talked about some of the things we hope to get out of it. Not oddly at all. We agree that mentorship is very much so lacking in terms of the relationships that the students have with alum. So there were several of us mentioned the concept of mentorship in one way or another, be that professional mentorship, so teaching young alum who are just getting into the professional world, how-tos, how to negotiate your salary, how do you talk about start date and vacations, and how do you have these conversations, as opposed to going and starting a job and just hoping that your employer explains it to you in a diligent way. We also talked about support, mentorship by way of mental health support. So we know that unfortunately, we cannot receive very much mental health support at the university that is culturally sensitive. That being said, there are tons of students who have attended, tons of alum who have attended, who have had very negative experiences, especially by way of mental health. And that is the catalyst for the reasons why those students are not connected. And this network can give us an opportunity towards reconnecting alum by way of connecting them to students to support them in mentorship in specific ways. We also talked a bit about connecting to parents and connecting to our scholars over at Eastman, because there are plenty of us over at Eastman. However, the students at Eastman, there was a person in our group, and she mentioned not feeling very connected and knowing that some of her peers are also not connected. So we want to do that work to make sure that everyone across all of our campuses is at least aware that these things exist, and that we can use our systems to support each other in whatever way that looks. We also talked briefly about some of the events, but I think the overarching concept was that we need to find a way to to encourage the alum to reach back and to not necessarily stay away just because some of their experiences weren't that great. In fact, since you know your experiences weren't that great, there are students that are currently attending, and we could probably support them through these experiences that they might be having that are not that great as alum, in a genuine, compassionate, professionally developing, all of the good things, kind and caring, all of the good things that go along with mentoring and being in a mentoring relationship. Oh, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry.
have
There was one specific point that I really want to mention from a recent alum who was in our group. I'm sorry, I'm misplacing her name at this moment. She mentioned that she is, as Deontay is also an alum of the Douglas Leadership House, and she understands that people in DLH have a specific type of draw back to the university because of DLH. And it became a point of the conversation that it may be possible that creating a space similar to or with similar intentions to DLH, but for Latinx and Hispanic students, might create that community that will encourage students then on the other end of their matriculation to reach back because they have a specific community that they will be reaching back to.
Thank you, Deontay. Those are very pointed ideas and thoughts. Yvette, your group?
Hi there. So we had a really great conversation. Stephanie is actually going to summarize for us from our group.
Thanks, Yvette. So we had a great conversation, like Yvette mentioned, and it ultimately boils down to a couple of things. One is to echo what ideas that have been shared already, the importance of a mentoring program. Yvette actually brought up that her and I know each other dating way back before I went to U of R, before I became an attorney. And we've just kept in touch through Latinas Unidas and that organization, kind of allowing, you get to see the development of someone. And I think we recognize that there's an importance in getting mentorship started and engaged early on. So to the extent that we can form some sort of program that engages individuals as early on as we can, whether it's right after acceptance or, acceptance and commitment to U of R, and having them reach out to individuals to start the discussion and having it be something less formal. I think we also discussed that a lot of mentorship programs are very rigid and very formal, which sometimes I think can be counterproductive. I think really having a mentorship program where the mentees can feel, can express concerns candidly and can really talk to their mentors openly about a wide array of issues without having the additional stresses of, do I need to proofread this email 16 times before I send it to my mentor, and adding that stress, where I think the point of the mentorship is to be helpful and to be open and to give them advice and be supportive. So we talked about that. We also talked about professional development programs that we think would be important, and having, engaging organizations locally that might be able to help provide professional development, et cetera. And those types of things would be good to see. And then more casual meet and greet for alumni as part of the network, something where we can really meet each other. And we were talking about other groups in the area that just do like a cafecito con leche and just, a casual lunch or coffee where people can really just get to know each other in the network itself. So those were really the highlights, I think, focusing on the importance of having someone that looks like you or has experienced the same types of experiences that you have as a Latinx person. One of the things we talked about was, the imposter syndrome that a lot of us go through, and being able to really talk to someone, either in a mentorship relationship and that has been through that, and kind of helps you through that and gives you the confidence that you need to really, really succeed and to push you to apply for things and tell you that, you really did earn this and this is, your hard work that's put you there.
Thank you, Stephanie. I also facilitated the fifth breakout group, and we had similar conversations around the importance of mentorship. And so I will turn it over to Michael Castro to talk about that.
Thanks, Raquel. So in line with all the other groups, we did touch upon mentorship, but we sort of expanded the notion of what mentorship is. We focused more on the more non-traditional sense of mentorship, vis-a-vis the first 2 years, where people are just trying to figure out what they want to do, what they want to study. And then sort of we talked about the nonlinear path that many of us have gone through. Someone started off as biomedical engineering and ended up being an attorney. So we thought it was really important for us to bring those experiences together to have this discussion on non-traditional, non-linear paths, sort of proposing a webinar of getting a few folks on the panel to share their experiences of how they went about exploring a non-traditional path, focusing on a webinar, especially for those of us who live abroad, such as myself, who may not always be on US Standard Time. So being able to have as many people participate or have many students participate, so we thought it would be best to do it midday, given the fact that a lot of students may have labs in the afternoon. And then, yes, have that mentorship or that webinar be followed up with an opportunity for those who weren't able to attend the webinar to have access to the panelists and to continue the conversation outside of the panel.
Excellent, thank you. It sounds like each of the breakout rooms had very rich conversations about what the Latinx Alumni Network can do in terms of future programming, events, and to support the needs of our students, but also get you all to participate and give back to the university. So thank you for sharing that as well. And please, I encourage you to keep the ideas coming, and you can reach out to any of us here or also to directly to Claudia de Leon, who is our alumni relations liaison. And so at this point, I want to turn it over to her so that she can share our next steps and what you can expect. Thank you so much for being here. It has been my pleasure to be here with you all.
Thank you, Raquel. So thank you all for giving us that information. I think it's very helpful. And so I'd like to share ways that you can stay connected with the Latinx Alumni Network. I know a lot of us had, there was conversation about mentorship, and Jessica had mentioned the Melior Collective. So the Melior Collective is a partnership between the Office of Alumni Relations and the Green Center. And there's actually a Latinx alumni group among many others that you can find. I know that Deontay and Walisa, who is here from the Office of Minority Student Affairs, OMSA, they have their own group. There's a lot of different groups that you can join to stay connected and even, mentor and be mentored. So if you haven't done so, make sure that you join and make sure you sign up for the mentorship program that is on there. There will be an opportunity in the spring to become a mentor. But I think from what the conversation was, we need more mentors that look like us. And so it's really important for us to be linked on there. And so we'll put that information in the chat. I also will be following up with, after this event via email and link our Latinx Alumni Network website once it's launched. And so our volunteer interest form will allow you to indicate the preferences that you have in order to show us what you'd like to be involved with. So I encourage you to fill one of those out to stay connected, to stay updated with future events and the progress of the Latinx Alumni Network. And lastly, you can always contact me directly. We'll make sure to put my contact info in the chat. We can chat via email, Zoom, anything that you'd like. My phone number is on there as well. So I'm happy to talk to all of you and get your feedback. And I'll be compiling the information that we've shared here today and continue working with our volunteers, partners, and alumni relations EDI team on working on moving the Latinx Alumni Network forward and utilizing your valuable feedback that we've heard here today. So thank you so much again. I'll turn it back to Raquel to close us out of today's program. Gracias, everybody.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for sharing that information. I hope that you will all stay connected with the Latinx Alumni Network, and please reach out to your friends and get them connected with us and encourage their participation with the network. And we certainly want to grow the network as well. And so thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts and ideas. Please look for a follow-up email within the next few days that I will provide a recording of today's program. We hope you enjoyed the conversations today and hope to see you in future events. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Take care.